Hey, Temple family. We are a church with a mission, and our mission is to make disciples who love the gospel, grow in community, and live on mission for Jesus. And one of the ways that we have supported those who live on mission is through Bryan and Lori Jones. And I have Bryan here. He is traveling through and was gracious enough to stop and to sit down with me for an interview to hear what's going on in their lives and how God is using them to make an impact for the kingdom of God. Thanks for joining me, Bryan.
Thanks for having me.
Well, could you tell me a little bit about your connection to Temple?
Sure, we have family here. My uncle is Larry Jones, Larry and Linda, and my cousin as well, Lisa Hauk, and her family. And they just connected us with this church, and we're very grateful for your support and prayers.
Yeah. You were one of the first people who came in and shared when I became pastor here. And so and we were just talking about how it's been about 3 years, and the Lord's done a lot of different things in your life over those 3 years. And but we're glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Okay, we have a wife. We've been married for 10 years, coming up in October. We have 4 kids, ages 7 and under, 3 girls and a boy. So that last one finally got a boy. We're excited.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. But I grew up in the Abilene area, and my wife grew up in Burleson, south of Fort Worth.
Okay, great. So Texans. All right. There you go. Nobody from Oklahoma hold it against them. All right. So what are you doing now? Who are you working with?
We're with Wycliffe Bible translators. They serve all over the world, and we were assigned to Papua New Guinea, spent some time there. But currently we're with JARS. It's a sister organization founded by the same person, Cameron Townsend. So he founded Wycliffe and SIL, which is in Oklahoma, and also JARS. And he had built JARS for logistical support for Bible translation. So JARS is involved in aviation, transportation, maritime services, vernacular media services, and technology.
Okay, so help me unpack that a little bit. Wycliffe, it's a ministry designed to get the Bible in the hands.
That's right.
Of people. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. So the mission of Wycliffe Bible translators is to translate the Bible in a language that a person understands best.
Yeah.
And then currently there's over 7,100 languages in the world, and there's still over 2,000 languages that still do not have any form of Bible translation at all.
Wow. And how does JARS come in and partner and help that?
When a missionary has a need overseas, they make that request to JARS. For instance, if they need a vehicle to get out to their village, or if they need airplane services or a computer, anything logistical, they contact JARS, and it's JARS' job to find a way to get that to them.
Man, that's great. What a great ministry.
That's right.
And so what do you do exactly at JARS?
So at JARS, I'm involved with the aviation training department, and currently we're going through the pre-field orientation where different pilots and mechanics come to JARS to get it standardized and learn how to operate safely where they're going overseas. So currently they're finishing up their training in the mountains, and after they finish this training, they'll go around the world and serve in their various capacities.
Oh, that's really cool.
Me as an aviation in training, I'm involved with mostly scheduling, but also I help develop the online platform that we use to just utilize more online resources versus face-to-face classroom time, and just trying to leverage our training to be the best possible.
That's awesome. And where is JARS located?
JARS is located in Waxhaw, North Carolina, just south of Charlotte.
Okay, cool. And so now, do y'all live on the center at the base, or where do y'all live?
We just moved off center. We were living in the apartments there that they offer for anyone working on staff there and anyone in transit in training. But we live in a rental house just off center.
Okay. So I want to stop and go back a little bit to hear your story of how God got you into this. You don't just wake up one day and work with training pilots to go do missions around the world. And so I want to hear about your story. Did you just watch Top Gun and realize I want to do that for Jesus? Like, how did you come to that? How did God draw you into this type of ministry? And just kind of want to hear how he called you to do missions.
Okay. Well, growing up, I had two passions. One was farming. I grew up helping my dad on the cotton farm. And then I also had a passion for being in the military, being a fighter pilot. And as I grew older, I gained bad eyesight. And at the time, they weren't accepting pilots with poor eyesight. And corrective vision was just now getting into play. But at that point as well, I was not wanting to go career military. And I went on to Texas A&M, both because I could do farming, a major in agriculture, but also be in the Corps Cadets and do the military. So that's both my passions, all right together. But during the time I was battling, what I do, Lord, I really want to fly, but I don't want to do military, I don't want to do airlines. I just want to fly for you. And about a week later, my mom sent me something in the mail, and I opened it, and it was a calendar from Mission Aviation Fellowship. And I was just flipping through the calendar and seeing pictures of airplanes with the villagers surrounding the airplane, and then just a light bulb went off. And I heard God tell in my mind, I want you to fly for me. And I had that picture in my mind, and it clicked. That's why I have these passions, is so I can serve God with the skills he's given me.
Man, that's awesome. And so how did you go from there, from that call to getting trained to do it? So what kind of training did you receive for this?
Okay. So after A&M, I spent 4.5 years in the Air Force because I already committed to serving before I went into missions. After the Air Force, I went to LeTourneau University in Longview, Texas. And there I got my pilot certificates as well as my mechanics licenses. And that's a 4-year degree. Afterwards, I became a flight instructor, went up to Mission Aviation School in Michigan, spent 4 years there just to gain experience and get more confident. And then after that, we joined Wycliffe.
Okay, great. And y'all went to Papua New Guinea.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about your time there in Papua New Guinea?
Okay. So we left for Papua New Guinea in October 2018. And we spent 7 months there, and I was assigned as a pilot mechanic. Initially, I mostly worked in the maintenance shop, and then I started the flight checkout process, flying all over the country, flying translators from village to village. We also do a few commercial operations, carrying coffee to the market. Otherwise, the farmers can't bring their crops to the market because Papua New Guinea is a very mountainous and jungly environment. And literally, some villages cannot survive without aviation services. And so I was involved with aviation.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the things that the Bible says in Proverbs is the heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. Y'all had plans to be in Papua New Guinea for a longer period of time, but God had a different plan.
Right.
And so what did you learn during that process? And what were some of the struggles and what were the challenges as you had prepared and went to Papua New Guinea, and then he moved you to a new ministry? Kind of what were some of the struggles and lessons you learned during that?
Mm-hmm. So toward the end of our time in Papua New Guinea, my wife started getting sick, just a lot of stress and anxiety, and she wasn't able to sleep very well. And so that caused a lot of strain on the whole family. And so just leadership wisely told us to come home. And it was a tough decision, but in a lot of ways it was an easy decision because I need to take care of my family. And that's always the number one ministry, is your family.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was always my dream, to go and serve overseas, especially with flying. And he just taught us that he just wants us to serve wherever we can, just have open hands. And it was actually a lesson we learned a few years before. Before we joined Wycliffe, we had to pass this what's called a technical evaluation. And it's basically a 2-week job interview where they gave me different projects to work on in the shop, and then spend a week flying doing different maneuvers just to see if I have the skills it takes to serve overseas. So we went there, and after the 2 weeks was up, I was very stressed out. I'm a people pleaser, so I had all this pressure of, okay, I gotta please my family, I gotta make sure my supporters are supportive of me and that I pass and I have to do well. And because of all that stress, I failed. And my dream came crashing down. I didn't know what to do. And I became very angry at God. And I quit talking to God for several months. And then finally, me and my wife just took a vacation away from everything. And I just needed to hash it out with God. I said, God, you've led me here. I've done my part. How come you haven't done your part? And he led me through Job. And he basically told me, who are you to talk at me like that? I'm God. I have the bigger picture in mind. I know the place that's best for you and where you can serve me best. And I realized that aviation became my idol. The Kodiak, the airplane I flew in Papua New Guinea, was my idol. I had to fly this airplane. And what I realized through that experience was God doesn't want half your heart. He wants all your heart. And so I let go of aviation, hoping that he'd give it back. But I was okay with whatever happened. About a year and a half later, I went back to do the technical evaluation, and I passed. Because my heart was right. I committed this opportunity to God, and he gave me peace about it. And because of that peace, I was able to perform at my best, and I was able to pass. That's great. Because of that experience, it helped me and my family through this experience, leaving Papua New Guinea, to understand that God has the bigger picture in mind. He's in control, he's sovereign. And no matter what we do, whether it's overseas or here in the States, we're still missionaries serving him to further his kingdom.
Man, that's such a hard thing to learn, but such a sweet truth, is that that God really is in control and has our best interest in mind. I want to say how thankful I am for your witness and you and your wife's faithfulness to follow God. Because it's one thing to follow God in the call, but we also have to follow him when he calls us somewhere else. Right. And I'm so thankful for y'all's obedience to the Lord in that. And we are so thankful to be gospel partners with you guys. And we love you guys and are so thankful for y'all's your obedience in that. So to kind of transition a little bit, so now you have this new opportunity that you've come back stateside in North Carolina with JARS, and so tell me about this new opportunity and why you believe God has you in that role, and why is it such an important ministry?
So God can take the worst of situations and make it to where it glorifies him. Yeah. And one of my first assignments at JARS was to start a learning development system using a online platform to help enhance training. And so I was involved with researching the best way to do that. And so this past year I set up Google Classroom for all of our training. And we were prepared to use that before all this pandemic hit. And so, but once the pandemic hit, everything had to come to a halt, except we already had this online training in place, and so we could continue on for several more weeks. And if we hadn't had that program in place, then we would have been dead in the water. So that's one way that God used our situation to help the mission and continue the training.
Man, that's great. And one of the follow-ups is kind of thinking through with JARS. Why do you believe in that organization? Why do you believe it's an important ministry?
They support Bible translation, and to see a Bible in every language is really critical, because God's word is the truth. It is the light. It is the way that shows us to God. And God's desire is for all people to come and glorify Him. And that's why what drew me to JARS is that passion for Bible translation, but also just the teamwork atmosphere that JARS has. That it doesn't matter who you are, whether you work in the kitchen, you mow the lawn, you work as a secretary, you're a mechanic, pilot, it doesn't matter. We all have the goal of supporting Bible translation for one day, every language to glorify Him. And that's what really drew me and Lori to JARS and serving with Him.
That's great, man. There's that beautiful picture in Revelation of every tribe, tongue, and nation crying out, "Worthy is the Lamb." And that vision of that heavenly reality should fuel missionaries and local church pastors, because that is what we're working for every day, to see people who are far from God become near to Him. And we have such a luxury here of most of us have 3 or 4 Bibles at home, and we get to talk and think about different translations, where in some people, they don't have any translation. They don't get to debate which translation's better because they've never had one in their own language. And because of y'all's work and work at Wycliffe, people will hold a Bible, and there will be a person who is the first person to read the Bible in that language. So we're so thankful for the work that y'all do.
Thank you.
So we're planning on bringing a group. We were planning to bring one this fall, but COVID and all of that. And we're planning to bring a group to work at JARS at the center there when conditions allow. If someone's watching and are interested in coming and helping out, why should they come?
When you come to JARS, you get the opportunity to learn about missions and how Bible translation has transformed so many lives around the world. As you're working on your project, the staff there on JARS will come alongside you teaching about the organization. And you get to work side by side with missionaries, hearing their stories. We have missionaries from literally all over the world, in Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Africa, South America, Europe, everywhere, and they all have fascinating stories.
And that's great. We're really looking forward to that, and looking forward to having a partnership and supporting you all going forward in that. So my last question is simply this: how can we be praying for you and your family?
One thing you can pray for is our decision to return to Papua New Guinea. By Christmas, we would like to have a decision made whether we can return or not. It's looking very promising for us to return. Most likely it'll be next fall before we go back. But you can be praying for wisdom on that decision. Also, we decided to homeschool our kids just from all the chaos and uncertainties of school and the pandemic. So we decided to homeschool the kids, which will be challenging. We have 2 in school now, and we still have 2 little kids, 3 and under. So that'll be a challenge for Lori. Can pray that we find the right material, but also find a way to balance handling little kids and plus teaching.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll definitely be in prayer for those things. And again, I just want to tell you how thankful I am for you to share your story. Often we think about our stories being really straight, but often they have a lot of turns that we don't expect. Yeah, but they are all used for the glory of God and for the good of those who serve Him. And so thank you for sharing your story. And we want to pray for you. We want to love you, and we want to support you guys in the days ahead. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. We sure appreciate everyone's support and your encouragement through our transition from Papua New Guinea. And y'all have been a great blessing to us.